profile in your AWS config, which is on your computer. And even if you don't have that, you must have then exported some variables. We are going to see that in a bit, how to configure your AWS CLI to configure your AWS profile in your computer. But then it's recommended to override it explicitly in your YAML file. And then the next thing is this region, which defaults to, I think, US East 1, which is Virginia, I guess, in the US state. And the stage defaults to dev. Now, staging allows you to stage your functions like as in development, production, testing. It's just like staging your applications in server. For a Lambda function, if you have 4 different stages like dev, prod, test, and whatnot, you'll be having 4 different functions with different stages on the AWS API gateways, and everything as copies of your original function. Now, okay, let me know when I can resume. Sorry. Okay, okay, sure. Okay. You have live streamed it, right? So as I said, your Lambda functions with different stages would have their own API gateways, and everything as copies of your original function. Now you can also override these properties, that is profile, region, and stage, from the CLI using flags. You can check serverless.yaml file. But let's first configure a profile for AWS by using AWS CLI. You can install AWS CLI by just googling AWS CLI. Do note that there are 2 versions of AWS CLI, AWS CLI and AWS CLI version 2. So you can install anything for configuring your AWS profile on your computer, as long as you're not working with operations and different services. So I have my AWS CLI installed on my computer. Check. AWS. Yeah. So yeah, I have my AWS CLI configured, but to configure your AWS profile on your computer, you just need to type AWS configure, and it will ask for an access key ID and a password, which you can find on your AWS profile. Go to my AWS profile. You can find that in security credentials, my security credentials, and then you can even go to IAM platform, IAM service for that. Yeah, yeah, it redirected to IAM only, identity access and access management. This is a service provided by AWS to manage your roles, your uh, execution roles, your permissions to AWS services. So I created one on May 31st. I'm creating one. just to demonstrate. Let me open that. And once you're done with all these things, you can pretty much deploy it. Did it open? Yeah, open. So this is the key. This is the key. It's not working. Wait a sec. I have to open that. Yeah. So yeah, again, you can create access keys for configuring your AWS profile on your computer so that you can deploy and work with AWS services right from your AWS CLI. Yeah. Copy this access key. Is that in here? The secret key. Default region. Yeah, this is very important. So if you remember, we mentioned region here. So this region should be the same as you are configuring your AWS on your computer, and which should also be same as you have set in your AWS management console, which is AP South 1 is of, I guess, for Mumbai. So yeah, and the default will be JSON only, the output format of that. So yeah, I've basically set up my AWS profile on my computer. So if I run deploy, the deploy command of serverless framework, serverless would know that what profile it needs to use for deploying it to AWS. Now, so let's deploy now. So to deploy it, you can use serverless deploy. And if you remember, this deploy command will deploy the whole serverless service, which will consist of all the Lambda functions onto the AWS. So to just so just before deploying it to cloud, you should check your serverless.yaml file. Is everything correct? Because it errors out, and AWS sometimes show you errors in a very different way that you won't be able to identify what went wrong. So I'm not using profile region and stage because we have configured our AWS profile on our computer. This is the path to my Lambda function source code. This is the handler file. Okay, I'm using API. I'm not using this placeholder. I don't have to because I'm not having that in my Lambda function. And we are using plugins. We don't need to use that when we are deploying it to AWS. I think everything is correct now. So yeah, let's deploy that now. Okay. And the first time you do that, it's going to take a long time, and that's because it has to set up your cloud formation stack in AWS. Remember we said that serverless uses something called cloud formation to set up everything that is needed by your Lambda function, directly or indirectly. So AWS takes the cloud formation template file created by your serverless framework and then AWS then creates a tech stack of all the AWS services your Lambda function needs. In our case, it's the API gateway only. It will keep that on AWS so that the next time you deploy, it doesn't have to recreate the whole tech stack. It just updates them based on the configuration file update, the serverless.yaml file. It does the divs and everything like you do in your Git. Some of the things that will get created in CloudFormation by the serverless framework are log groups. Remember, I mentioned that the same in the context file, your ARNs for Lambda, API gateway, and such things. So meanwhile, we can also see our CloudFormation getting updated with the configs by serverless. And now because we have subscribed, let's go to CloudFormation to see our tech stack being updated. Let's search for services cloud, and there's so much cloud in here. CloudFormation, yeah. It name it as serverless service. So yeah, you see, this shows that it has been updated. Okay, this is from my previous deployment. Let's wait for that to finish. Meanwhile, you can see that our cloud formation is getting updated. Okay. And now because we subscribed to HTTP event in our serverless.yaml file, uh, we will get some URLs to hit. Remember, I told you we'll be getting that which we have to use to hit our API gateway where it is hosted. Let's wait for that to finish, and let's see that if it gives some nice URLs to hit. Okay. Yeah, one thing I wanted to let you know, guys, know that how does AWS keeps a track of a Lambda function, our dev dependencies, our external dependencies. What it does is that it basically creates a package, a zip file. See, all the template files are being created, and a zip file of your serverless service. So what it does is that it saves all the this are all these configuration files and our lambda function .zip file to S3 bucket, so that whenever someone hits a lambda function, it unzips from the S3 itself and loads the lambda to the execution context. So yeah, that's something that is pretty interesting to get deep diving into it. Let's see. Let's wait for it to finish. It will take time because it's creating the whole tech stack around our lambda function. Okay. So Rohan, is it not? It's not lagging, right? Rohan, hello. It's not lagging, right? It's not lagging. Let's wait for that to finish. So it says that it has been the stack has been updated, and it gives the service information. what our service was named, what stage it has been deployed to, what region, and a stack. And the stack name is made by first your serverless service name, and then dash your stage. So for every stage, your lambda function gets deployed. So for every stage, there are copies of your lambda function, of your original lambda function. I mentioned that before. So yeah, so we got the this URL to hit. Let's hit to check if you're getting the right response. Sometimes it does mess up in your browser. Yeah, we got Shonic. What we did output from the function in here as the body. So so now if we go and see a lambda function on AWS itself, let us go to our AWS. So where's my where's my function? Let me check. Just let's take one for example. So if we go and see a lambda function on AWS, we are going to see a nice GUI of all the events that our lambda function has subscribed to. This API gateway, we know because we didn't mention that in our serverless.yaml file. But something also gets subscribed to our lambda function, which is called CloudWatch. That is something that gets created by serverless and cloud formation for us to see our logs that we console out. This is a separate service in itself provided by Amazon Web Services. Let's search cloud services, cloud watch now, here to show. And if we go to cloud watch and then to logs, log groups, log groups. So yeah, so then to log groups. So yeah, so we see that CloudWatch created log groups for our serverless services. For example, if you go to this log group and see that so we can see that we are getting log groups for all a lambda function hit requests whenever it was triggered. Now let's get back to our lambda dashboard. I'm going to so yeah, so hmm. So this tab right here called function code is basically uh, a simple editor that AWS provides for you to uh, quickly edit your lambda function, even if you deploy from your serverless framework. So if your lambda function is heavy and is dependent on external dependencies, your this editor would not work because it won't be able to load all the code of all the external dependencies. For example, serverless offline and Express. You can even use Express in your lambda function. We are going to see that in a bit. Now we have environment variables. We can create one that in our lambda function, and we have these tags as well, which we can uh, by which we can give tags to our lambda function, so that when we search for the lambda function, we can search it by a tag, because normally many lambda functions at once. So it becomes hectic tedious to search for a particular Lambda function. If you give it a tag, it will be very easy. So now these are the basic settings. You can even give it a description to your Lambda function. This is the runtime. You can update that. You can even update the memory being allocated to your Lambda function. It defaults to 1024 MB. It can get up to, I guess, 3 GB. Yeah, around that, 3008 MB. Let's get back to where we were. I don't know about this AWS X-ray. This is something new, and there's something called execution role. I should tell you about that. That's very important. Your Lambda function needs to have some kind of authorization on AWS when it is invoked. It is not like that. It is not like that that you deploy your Lambda function and it uh, authorizes itself, and it can invoke it, and it can work with everything by itself. So you have to give the Lambda some kind of permissions to access other services of AWS, and that is done by giving your Lambda function an execution role. Um and then managing those permissions grant by going to IAM, which I mentioned before, identity access management, which is the identity access management, which is in itself a service, and configuring the permissions for the role you have just given to your Lambda function. By default, serverless creates an execution role for your Lambda function. That is why you are not able to see that in here. You have to go to IAM service. You have to configure for your Lambda function. You have to give permissions whether your my Lambda function will be able to access S3, will be able to access DynamoDB or any service in accordance to your serverless.yaml file. You can do that. You can pretty much do that with your serverless.yaml file. So now for these basic settings, I have told you that before. So now for this network, which very much revolves around VPC, virtual private network. It is very important. Without this and actually without internet gateway IGW, one such service provided by AWS as well, you won't be able to talk to internet. You won't be able to make any kind of API calls to any service out there. You won't be able to access any internet resource. So by default, when you deploy a Lambda function on the AWS, it cannot access the internet. The only workaround that is to set up a VPC, virtual private cloud. There's a service. There's a separate service for that, VPC. VPC. That is connected to internet gateway. You can pretty much do all your configurations through your serverless.yaml file, but it needs to be done in order to make a Lambda function talk to other networks outside of AWS. So okay, so that's pretty much it. Now that we have went through all the stuffs in here in this Lambda dashboard, there's one more thing, that is how AWS keeps a record of your Lambda function code and all the config files before, but I want to repeat that for you guys because it's very important to this. It's the way that you will know that you have to bundle up your Lambda function and where to find your Lambda function, and if something goes wrong, you can pretty much go to that bucket and debug yourself. So this is done in S3. Remember when we deploy our Lambda function, we got a serverless .serverless file in here, folder in here. S3, you can find the bucket name of your function as well. Let me go to S3. So yeah, see, there it is. I just deploy a bucket name for my serverless service. Uh, so you can pretty much go into that, and it will simply list down all your configuration files, all your, so yeah, that is something that needs to be talked about. If you go to this serverless service, this is the name of your serverless service. If you go to the serverless, and this is your stage. So if you have multiple stages, you will have multiple folders, and inside of which will have inside of which will we have all our Lambda function. Uh, if you go to this file, yeah, so inside this stage file, we have this Lambda function. If we have multiple Lambda functions in every stage, we'll be having multiple files. We have the cloud formation template file, we have the Lambda function code in here. This is for every Lambda function that is being deployed onto the AWS as a different stage. One last thing I want to talk about is that you can actually look at your logs here in place of looking them on CloudWatch by running the command serverless logs -f and then your function name, which in our case it's I guess API. Yeah, API. Just pull out all your logs from the CloudWatch, I believe, and it will list down all of them right here. Because we don't have logs in our CloudWatch right now, doing that, it's not listing that. You can even stream your logs by running serverless logs -f function name, and then your it is for streaming your logs in real time. So that's pretty much it. We have successfully completed this deep dive session into the foundations of AWS and framework. Obviously, there's let me pull my slide for you guys. Yeah, tons of stuffs that are yet to be explored. I even have not gone through all of them, to be very frank. But what I believe is that if you get the basics right, you can learn and integrate any. Some of them I've listed here, so that when you go back, you have something more to start working on. So first of all, I want all of you to explore this serverless application repository. Let me pull that up. Serverless application repository. Yeah, yeah, it's a pretty cool store, which is a managed repository for serverless applications. AWS manages itself. It helps everyone to share reusable serverless applications, and you can pretty much integrate them to your own serverless architectures without even cloning or publishing pre-built function code onto your AWS account. It really helps team reduce duplicated works. Now moving on, there are different ways to handle routing for a Lambda function as well. What we saw previously was that we configured APIs through the serverless YAML file for our API gateway. But what we normally do in our serverless with something like what we normally do in our server, sorry, with something like define all, that's one application, that is Express application handling all the APIs. What if we could use the same architecture for our Lambda functions? You can totally do that. There are a couple of packages for that. One such is serverless, sorry, AWS. So we will have an API gateway, an AWS proxy, to which one Lambda function is subscribed to, and then that one Lambda function will have Express, which will help find all the routes. So by this method, if you have APIs built in Node JS through Express, you can simply copy paste that code and you are good to go. Yes, you have to use an npm package for that. One such is called AWS serverless service, and even there's a package called serverless HTTP offered by the serverless incorporation as well. HTTP, yeah, there is. So yeah, there is. There are multiple packages. You just need to copy this boilerplate code, and you're good to go. You need to export your Express app, and you have to require that here as well. It is that simple, and everything else will be taken care of by this AWS serverless service, serverless Express. Uh, uh, yes, this needs to be bundled with your Lambda function to work when you are deploying it, and hence your Lambda function will be big in size. But with great sizes comes cool features. And the next thing you can look into is how to write tests for your Lambda functions. You can use just for that. It came from Jasmine or Mocha, I believe. I don't remember, but they all are same. It's just that one is better than the other in some aspects. You can even use the same syntax like the describe blocks, the it blocks, but with jest, it is the test block, and you can use expect to test the values in it. Let me write a basic boilerplate code so that you guys get the hang of it. Uh, all your test files should have spec in them. So then we have expect this to be APIs built by using the Express way. You can use super test for that. So there's no point of testing your handler function directly. Uh, Pull that up. Yeah. So there's no point. So there's no point of testing your handler function directly, like you're testing the event object or your context object, because it's not your job. That is the job of AWS to ensure that when an event occurs, your handler is receiving events. Having passing tests for that is not going to help you because it's complete. So again, you should think of it uh, as writing tests for Lambda function is pretty much the same thing as writing a test for anything, uh, uh, like in basic JavaScript, like in basic Node.js applications you do. Um Rather than your Lambda function handler instead. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Do explore the developers guide of both the AWS Lambda and serverless framework. I'm all yours. You can contact me on my email address. You can contact me on LinkedIn. If anyone has any kind of questions, you can ask me now. So over to you, Rohan. Hello.
Yeah, hello sir. There are a couple of questions on the YouTube chat. There is one question from Ritik from second year. He asks that which is more cost effective, server or serverless in a long term with good user base.
Oh, with good user base, I guess you should be using a hybrid solution because just neglecting serverless or the server architecture will be of no good to you. For example, if you have modular solutions in your whole application architecture, deploy them Lambda, and have the basic application being deployed to your server architecture, your VM or your servers on the cloud. So you should be using a hybrid solution. for that, because lambdas are basically good for uh, solutions, right? So yeah.
Okay, sir. There is one question from me. Can we use database connections in serverless functions? Like, can we query database too?
Yeah, that is so much well handled in your serverless.yaml file. That can be very well be mentioned in here with your events and handler. You can check the docs for that. You can even use DynamoDB or uh, any anything with your serverless functions. But that needs to be handled in your serverless.yaml file.
Okay, sir. So now we have come to the end of our session, I guess. Uh, I'll just go on with my
Okay.
ending note. Uh, Due to some network issues, we the